I have spent the last 10 years of my life making all the fitness mistakes that you could ever imagine. And here's my top 5 to save you the time that I wasted. Number 1, undereating. I spent a lot of time initially in my earlier days trying to lose weight. So therefore, obviously my natural reaction to that was eating less food, overdoing. I spent a lot of time doing this and I've seen very little results. What actually happened as a byproduct of me undereating was a lack of performance in the gym, and it was a lack of energy. Therefore, my expenditure was just not as high as it should have been. Also, with the lack of performance in the gym, there was no retention or actually gaining of muscle. So what then tended to happen, and what did happen for me, was I found myself, I had this vision in my head that I wanted to be a men's health character, as we all do growing up. I then found myself becoming a smaller version of myself, feeling way worse. So when I'd got to a point where I felt like I'd lost the weight I wanted to lose, I looked down and I just was not happy with the results I had. I'd just use the term skinny fat. I don't know if any of you have felt in that position where you feel skinny fat. I had no muscle. I'd put in all this work. All my friends around me were making the progress that I wanted to make, but for whatever reason, I was in a position where I was just not happy. And now in reflection, the older I've got, the more that I've learned, I understand that I needed food present. I was not to be scared of carbohydrates. They needed to be in my diet to ensure that my performance in the gym was of a level that I could actually start to develop and grow muscle. That's the physique we all wanted. I wanted a chest, I wanted biceps. I did not want to have this small, stringy physique, but I just did not have the understanding or the knowledge of how to achieve it. So after years and years, literally years of my life, I spent wasted by not seeing the results I wanted to achieve, becoming frustrated, getting to the point where I actually thought maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm just not blessed to be in a position where these guys are growing the muscle they are. And this is where I found myself wandering around supermarkets, looking at the backs of packets of food. And to be honest, I had no idea what it was that I was looking for. I just knew there were certain things that I assumed that society suggested that I wasn't able to eat. So to err on the side of caution, I found myself going down the lines of the chickens, the salads, the broccolis, the veg. And again, this just led itself back to the point where I was undereating, underperforming, and not seeing the results. So literally, again, years of my life wasted, frustrated. I had to act on this. So therefore, it got to a point where I decided to reach out. I thought, I'd spent almost 2 years of my life in a position where I was wasting time when I just wasn't making progress. So why not reach out to someone who knows what they're doing? So after spending 2 years being upset, being frustrated, being this skinny fat person where I'd find myself, okay, I looked slim and I looked small in clothes, but I felt very uncomfortable taking my t-shirt off at the swimming pool on holidays. And for the work that I was putting in, I felt life was becoming really unfair. So what was the next step? For me, I reached out to someone who was in the know, someone I spent my time and I researched, someone who I trusted in their ability and their knowledge to take me to that next level. They then provided me a meal plan because, to be honest, I had no structure. I was eating ad hoc, I was eating the wrong things. And to be honest, my mind was going mad. So to remove that guesswork from myself, that frustration, it was important just to kind of put my trust into someone else. They laid things out into a much more simple form for me to follow, which firstly played a huge role in me then not having to overthink or worry. I also trusted what it was that I was doing so I could fully commit to the plan ahead. And it wasn't until that point is when I started to enjoy the foods I was eating, because again, I was at a point where I'd been brought up on fad diets, I'd been brought on over restricting, so I wasn't unsure of actually, do you know what, you can eat foods that you enjoy. This is going to allow for longevity and sustainability and the consistency that we need to achieve results. So that first and foremost was an absolute eye-opener. And again, secondly, they put it into such a simple format that it was easy for me to prep and it was easy for me to follow. And the best thing from all of the above, from not only enjoying it, was I started to see results. I started to see development in the gym. Therefore, my motivation, my enjoyment of the gym grew. And that's when I found myself in this, where we are now, 10 years later, and I'm still progressing the same methods that I learned early on. So number 1 has to be undereating was the biggest mistake that I made. Point number 2, and this point probably cost me the most time wasted across all the points I'm going to cover today. And that was just a lack of direction. So as someone, again, who felt they were in a position where they were skinny fat, I felt skinny, number 1. So therefore I'd try and bulk. I felt small. I wanted to grow, I wanted to get bigger. I started to get 2 weeks in, I still felt fat. Therefore I was like, God, I need to cut. So then I'd start a diet. And then I was like 2 weeks later, I felt skinny. And it was just this repetitive cycle. And I literally did this for years on end. So as we know, the biggest driver to results is consistency. So until I had someone put something into place that I could consistently trust and again to follow, I was just on this hamster wheel of going nowhere. And that was an incredibly frustrating period of time for me, for sure. Point number 3, feeling uncomfortable in the gym to the point where it was creating anxiety about me actually going. And this was something I suffered with for a long period of time. This came from a lack of knowledge, to be honest. I had no exercise plan, no structure within the gym. I'd find myself wandering in. And because I didn't understand what I was doing, I found myself carrying away over to things like the treadmills, because we know how to turn a treadmill on, you know? So for me, seeing a busy weight section full of people who, in my opinion, were way further advanced in terms of their physiques and their knowledge, that was an incredibly scary period of my life. So again, I found myself walking over to the treadmills. I was doing an awful lot of running. Again, in my mind, I was trying to lose this weight, therefore cardio was the answer. But again, as we know now, the older I've got, that excessive cardio and under eating lends itself to the physique that no coincidence that I developed, was this skinny fat physique. So for me, for someone who wanted to actually grow muscle and aspire to, like I say, be this men's health model, which I always did, I needed to be in at the deep end. I needed to teach myself or learn or build the skill set needed to enhance my knowledge in the gym. So to actually achieve the results that I wanted to achieve, which was this much more muscular tone and lean physique as we all do, the weight section was the area that I needed to be in to develop the results that I wanted. And unfortunately, again, we see this an awful lot, that people will carry away and they are holding themselves back and limiting themselves from the physique that they want. You are limiting your own abilities to be the best that you can be, just down to something that can be solved, which is a lack of knowledge. So therefore I took myself away. Again, I got further educated, and that's when I started to understand the gym process. I started to understand that I needed to lift weights. I needed to progressively overload the weights that I was doing and create further stimulus on my body, therefore the muscle, to enhance the growth that I wanted. This then full circle brings itself back to the fact that I needed to be fueled to perform to a certain level. I needed to be fueled to be able to kind of recover from the sessions that I was doing, and fueled enough for the muscle to grow. So as you can see, this turns back full circle, and this is incredibly important. This is when I start to see breakthroughs. Point number 4. Believe it or not, it was enthusiasm. So now I'd learned the skill sets, the knowledge I needed to grow the muscle I wanted. I couldn't stay away from the gym. I was training 5, 6, 7 days a week. And then I got to a point where, again, I'm starting to see no progress. I started to really bang my head against the wall and believe this really wasn't for me. But now, again, on reflection from what I know, I was going in there and I wasn't training hard enough, because over 7 days, I wasn't able to maintain the levels of performance and intensity I needed. I wasn't taking the rest that I needed to ensure that my muscles were growing and developing the way that they were, and all become a big tired mess. So it was actually the enthusiasm from the skills I'd learned and the knowledge that I'd gathered that was holding me back to achieve my next result. That became the ceiling in the next limitations of my journey. So like any ceiling that we hit, it's important to get past it. So therefore I had to further and broaden my knowledge again. Okay, I'd learned how to eat. I'd learned how to use the gym. Now I needed to understand what it was and what it took to actually grow muscle. And this is where I reached out to someone who, again, was above me in terms of their knowledge and experience, because they were able to break down the things that I needed to know and put them into a simple form for me to be able to kind of follow and ensure that I started to make progress. This is where recovery was key. Again, I had no understanding of recovery. This was way above my knowledge. Again, I just learned how to use the gym. So therefore, this was a really important lesson that I learned. And again, it allowed me to advance to be honest, the next level of my physique. And now on to my final and most important point. So now you know you need to eat enough. Now you know that you need direction and consistency over a period of time. You now know how to train. And lastly, within that, you know that you need to be able to recover from the training that you're doing. So now you're in a position where maybe you're doing all the above and you're still not seeing the results that you want to achieve. This starts to become frustrating. You might find motivation starts to dip. Then what next? It's important for you guys to understand that things take time. The expectations need to be of a level of the work that you're doing and the results you're going to see. So don't be like I was and expect to be, like I say, a men's health model in 6 weeks of being behaved and sticking to your diet. So the way that I've eradicated this final point is by implementing the following things. I now start to gamify on a daily basis and start to see rewards from the work that I'm doing. And I thoroughly love and enjoy the process that I'm doing. Therefore, as a byproduct of that, the results are going to come. So what I want you guys to take away from this final point is this is a marathon, not a sprint. Rome wasn't built in a day. That all sounds incredibly cliche, but it's true. It's important for me that you guys live and love the process. So the biggest driver to results is consistency. To be consistent, we have to be adherent. To be adherent, you have to enjoy what you're doing. So we need to be realistic with our expectations. So therefore the longevity will come with. I am 10 years down the line. I have learned the lessons I have and I'm still continuing to learn. So the difference from where I am now to where I was, I mean, there's an awful lot of differences, but the main difference being is that I've learned to love the process. On a daily basis, I get up and I love the opportunity to be able to understand and to learn. So now for me going forward, with the experience that I've built and the knowledge that I've learned, I'm now going to be in the shape and continue to be in the shape that I never thought I'd have all those years ago. And hopefully this video has been useful to you, that you can take away from the last 10 minutes, the 10 years of my life that I've spent learning. And if you can apply these lessons to yourself today, this is going to fast track your results to that next level. So if you are someone who can relate to the experiences that I've been through, you might be in that position right now. Don't be afraid to reach out. Here at Team JW, my journey, my mission is to be able to provide you with the information, the tools, and the knowledge that I, again, have spent the last 10 years building to allow you to take your physique to that level that you never thought possible.